My name is Emma. I live in Portland, a city in the United States. It rains a lot in Portland, but I like the quiet weather. Since I was a child, I loved Japan. I saw pictures of Japan in books and on TV. I loved the pink cherry blossom trees, the red gates at temples, and the peaceful gardens. I always wanted to visit Japan, but I was afraid to go alone. One day, it was raining outside. I was sitting near my window and watching videos on my phone. I saw a video of Japan. It showed cherry blossom trees with soft pink flowers. There was a red gate in the middle of the trees. In the background, I saw a big mountain. It was Mount Fuji. The sky was blue and clear. It looked like a dream. I looked at the video again. I felt something in my heart. I said to myself, I want to go. I want to see this place with my own eyes. But then I felt nervous. Japan is far from my home. I do not like Japanese. I have never traveled so far by myself. I started to think maybe I was not ready. Then I remembered something my mother said to me. She said, "Don't just visit Japan. Feel it with your heart." I smiled. I felt brave. I opened my laptop. I bought a plane ticket to Japan. I booked a small hotel in Tokyo. I packed my travel bag. I packed my camera, a notebook, 2 pens, a small scarf from my mother, and a book called Simple Japanese for Travelers. I did not speak Japanese, but I wanted to learn. I told myself, learn one new word every day. The day of the flight came. My mother gave me a big hug. She said, "Be brave." I said, "I will." I got on the plane. The flight was long. I did not sleep much, but I was excited. I watched the clouds from the window. I thought about all the new things I would see. Finally, the plane landed in Tokyo. I looked around. Everything was new. The airport was big and clean. I heard people speaking Japanese. I heard soft music. I followed the signs. Many signs had English too, so I found the train easily. I got on the train to the city. As the train moved, I looked out the window. The buildings were tall. The lights were bright. There were many small shops and vending machines. I saw people in uniforms. I saw children walking to school. I smiled. I was really in Japan. On the train, a little girl sat next to me. She looked at my camera. She pointed and said, "Kawaii." That means cute in Japanese. I smiled and said, "Thank you." She gave me a candy and ran to her mother. It was a small moment, but it made me feel welcome. I arrived at my hotel in a place called Asakusa. It was a small, quiet hotel. My room had a soft bed on the floor, a small table, and a little teapot. I felt happy. It was my first night in Japan. I walked outside and found a small ramen shop. I wanted to try real Japanese ramen. I did not understand the menu, but there was a machine to order. I pushed a button, and a ticket came out. I gave it to the man at the counter. Soon, he gave me a big bowl of hot ramen. The ramen smelled very good. It was my first time eating real ramen in Japan. I took a photo before eating. Then I ate slowly. The soup was warm. The noodles were soft. The taste was new and delicious. I smiled while I ate. I felt happy and proud. That night, I sat in my room and opened my notebook. I wrote my first sentence. Today I arrived in Japan. I was nervous, but I did it. It was the beginning of my big adventure. I did not know what would happen next, but I was ready to learn, to explore, and to follow my dream. The next morning in Tokyo was warm and sunny. I woke up early and drank green tea in my little hotel room. I opened my notebook and wrote a few words. Then I took my camera and went outside. I walked to a nearby temple. The streets were quiet. I passed small shops and kind people who smiled at me. When I reached the temple, I saw a big red gate. I walked through the gate and washed my hands at the fountain. The water was cool. A soft bell rang from the temple. It was peaceful. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. After the temple, I walked to a big park. I saw people sitting on benches and children playing. I bought a lunchbox called bento from a small store and ate it on a bench. There was rice, fish, vegetables, and fruit. It was simple and tasty. A little bird came near me. I gave it a small piece of rice. It made me smile. Later that day, I went into a bookstore. It was small and quiet. The shelves were full of books in Japanese. I found a children's book with big letters and pictures. It was easy to read. I bought the book and promised myself I would read one page every night. As I walked out of the store, it began to rain. I forgot to bring my umbrella. I stood under a roof, waiting for the rain to stop. Then I saw a small shop across the street. I shot it inside. An old man stood behind the counter. He saw that I was wet. He gave me a warm towel and made me a cup of hot ginger tea. He did not speak much English, but he pointed to my wet clothes and smiled. I said, "Thank you." He said, "Daijubu," which means, "It's okay." I sat on a chair and drank the tea. It was spicy and warm. I felt safe. I looked at the old man and smiled. Sometimes, you do not need many words. Kindness is enough. After the rain stopped, I left the shop and walked to a park. I took out my notebook and started to draw. I drew the temple gate and the little bird I saw earlier. While I was drawing, a young woman sat on the bench next to me. She looked at my picture and said, "Nice lines." Her name was Yui. She was friendly and spoke English slowly. She also had a sketchbook. We showed our drawings to each other. Then we sat together and drew the trees in front of us. We laughed when the wind blew our papers. Even though we were from different countries, we became friends. The next day, I said goodbye to Tokyo. I took the bullet train to Kyoto. The train moved very fast. I looked out the window and saw farms, houses, and green hills. It was quiet on the train. I felt calm. In Kyoto, I stayed in a ryokan. It is a traditional Japanese inn. An old woman welcomed me. She showed me my room. There was no bed, only a soft futon on the floor. There was a tatami mat, a small table, and a window that looked out to a garden. The woman made tea for me. She smiled a lot. She gave me a light robe called a yukata. I wore it and sat by the window. The garden had green moss, stones, and a small tree. It was very beautiful. That evening, I walked to a small community center. They had a tea ceremony. I sat on the floor and watched a woman in a kimono make tea. She moved slowly and with care. She used a bamboo whisk to mix the tea. Every step was quiet and soft. I did not understand all the rules, but I felt peace in my heart. The next day, Yui came to Kyoto to see me. We went to a calligraphy class together. We learned how to use a brush and black ink. I wrote the word courage. It was hard, but I liked it. The teacher helped us and said I was doing well. In the evening, we joined a small festival in the town. People wore yukatas and danced. There were lanterns hanging everywhere. The light was soft and orange. We ate sweet rice cakes. I saw children chasing fireflies and playing games. I felt like I was in a storybook. That night, I wrote in my notebook, "Today I saw the quiet side of Japan. It is soft, kind, and full of beauty. I feel calm, and I feel strong." One sunny morning in Kyoto, I walked into a small paper shop. I saw many beautiful papers, fans, and origami cranes. One crane was made with red and gold paper. I reached out to take it. At the same time, another hand reached for it too. I looked up and saw a girl smiling at me. Her name was Aiko. We both laughed. She said, "I like this crane." I said, "Me too." She spoke good English. We talked for a while. She told me she loved books and writing. She wanted to become a writer. I said, "I also like to write, but I don't know what to write yet." She smiled and said, "Start with your own story." Aiko took me to her favorite cafe. It was quiet and small. We sat near the window. The cafe served green tea and mochi, a soft rice dessert. The tea was warm and the mochi was sweet. We talked for hours. We talked about dreams, family, school, and life. It felt easy and nice. Before we left, Aiko gave me a gift. It was a small notebook with a cherry blossom on the cover. She said, "Write your story. It will help you understand your heart." I held the notebook in my hands and felt touched. It was a simple gift, but it meant a lot to me. A few days later, I met 3 hikers on a train. They were going to climb Mount Fuji. One of them asked me, "Do you want to come with us?" I was surprised. I had never climbed a mountain before. I wasn't sure if I could do it, but I thought about courage. I remembered the word I wrote in calligraphy. I said, "Yes, I want to try." We started the climb early in the morning. The path was rocky and steep. It was cold and the wind was strong. My legs felt tired, but I kept walking. The other hikers were kind. They waited for me and shared snacks. We talked and laughed as we walked. Every step brought me closer to the top. As we climbed higher, the sky became darker. We reached the top just before sunrise. We sat down to rest. The wind was cold, but I felt warm inside. Then the sun came up. The sky turned pink, orange, and gold. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. I opened the notebook Aiko gave me. I wrote one sentence. "I am strong." I smiled. I felt proud. I had done something I never thought I could do. I had climbed a mountain. I had followed a dream. After the climb, I returned to Tokyo for my last few days in Japan. I met Yui again. We walked near the river and watched the boats pass. We didn't talk much, but it was a nice moment. I gave her a small drawing of the mountain. She smiled and said, "Thank you." I went back to the cafe where I met Aiko. I gave the notebook to the worker and asked him to give it to her. Inside, I wrote a short letter. I said thank you. I said she helped me believe in myself. I hoped we would meet again someday. On my last day, I visited a temple. I bought a small charm. It was for courage. I held it in my hand and closed my eyes. I said thank you to Japan in my heart. On the airplane home, I looked out the window. The clouds looked soft. I smiled. I was not the same person who came to Japan. I was more brave. I was more open. I was ready to try new things. Back in Portland, I put the photo from Mount Fuji on my desk. I started to write in the notebook every day. I signed up for a Japanese language class. I listened to Japanese music and watched Japanese shows. When cherry blossom trees bloom in my city, I sit under them and remember Japan. I remember the red gates, the quiet streets, the warm tea, and the kind people. I remember how I felt when I stood on top of the mountain. Thank you, Japan, for helping me grow. You are always in my heart. And thank you, Emma, for being brave. This was the best journey of my life, and it was only the beginning. Emma's story was not just about travel. It was a journey of the heart. At the beginning, she was unsure. She was afraid to go alone. She didn't speak Japanese. She had never been to Asia before, but she had a dream. And one day she said yes to that dream. She left her home in Portland and flew to Japan. She opened her heart to new places, new people, and new experiences. She walked on quiet streets in Tokyo. She made friends like Yui and Aiko. She tried new foods. She got lost in the rain and found kindness. She climbed a mountain and discovered her strength. Through her simple steps, Emma changed. She learned how brave she really was. She learned that kindness is a language everyone can speak. She learned that even small moments can become big memories. And most of all, she learned that the world is full of beauty if we open our eyes and our hearts. Emma's story reminds us of something important. You don't have to be perfect to follow your dreams. You don't need to wait until you know everything. Sometimes, the best way to grow is to go. One small step can lead to something big. One choice can change your life. So, what can we learn from this story? We learn that courage is not loud. Courage is quiet. It is in the small voice that says, try. It is in the soft heart that says, I'm scared, but I'll go anyway. You can apply this in your life today. Maybe you want to learn English. Maybe you want to travel. Maybe you want to start something new. Whatever it is, don't wait for the perfect moment. Start now. Even a small start can take you somewhere beautiful. And guess what? You've just finished listening to a full English story. That means your listening, understanding, and vocabulary have already improved. Great job. You're getting better step by step. Now, here's a small quiz for you. Where did Emma meet Aiko for the first time? A. At a train station. B. In a paper shop. Write your answer in the comments, A or B. We'd love to see what you remember from the story. If you enjoyed this story and want more, please subscribe to our channel. It helps us grow and brings you more free, high-quality stories to learn English with. Also, if you can, consider donating to support our work. Making these videos takes time and love, and in the beginning, it's not easy. But we do it because we care about your learning, and we believe in your dream. Thank you for listening. See you in the next story.